Hello everyone, welcome to my booktube channel, Books with Genghis Khan. Here's my first ever video, and it's one where you can hopefully get a sense for my reading taste and my recent reading experiences. So it's the Mid-Year Book Freakout Tag. Now, the first question, what is the best book I've read so far? That's a tough one, because I've had a lot of 5-star reads, some of my favorites of all time, but this one stands out as the clear winner so far. Demon in White by Christopher Racchio, book 3 in the Sun Eater saga. Now, I had a good inkling that I was going to love Sun Eater from everything I had seen about it. I had no clue that I would love it so much from the start. Loved book 1, loves book 2, but this book, book 3, had so many epic sections in it, in such variety, from intense action-packed sections to really quiet sections where it's just a lot of interpersonal stuff going on or politics. All these different sections just made for one of the most intense and engaging reading experiences of my life. This book, absolutely spectacular. There was not a single thing I disliked about this one. So, pretty easy in the end to go Demon in White. Now, for best sequel that I've read in 2022, we go with The Scarab Path by Adrian Tchaikovsky. That's book 5 of the Shadows of the Apt series. So this series has become easily one of my favorites of all time, my top 10. And this one is the first book that follows the kind of first 4-book arc. And it is just an incredible expansion of world building. It's a more focused story in terms of following just a couple of the main characters, whereas the previous 4 kind of followed all the cast and had many different POVs. So this kind of changed the storytelling structure in a really satisfying way and expanded the world in an extremely interesting way, and you get a lot of lore that carries you through to the rest of the series in terms of the mysteries of what's going on. So, and the action, some of the action in here, I cared so much about the characters involved that it was just harrowing dealing with these action scenes and seeing who was going to come out of there or who was going to be successful. So, just absolutely outstanding. All right. A new release that I want to read but haven't gotten to yet. I have a couple here. We have Touch of Light by Tiago Abdullah. Just an absolutely stunning cover there. But I saw the audiobook narrator and Tiago in an interview on YouTube. They seemed like great people, but also a style of fantasy that I think is right up my alley. So can't wait to try that one. And then we got Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford. I very much into kind of steampunk aesthetic. Shadows of the Apt, a lot of that going on. And I think this one, again, is gonna do the trick. My most anticipated release, second half of the year, not very original. It's going to be The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. I got drawn into adult fantasy in 2018 by Brandon Sanderson and the first Mistborn trilogy. Then I went back and just binged all the Cosmere books, and I loved Era 2. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I've loved Era 2. I've been waiting for that resolution to come for a bunch of years now, and I cannot wait. I will be hitting that up on release day. Now we go to the biggest disappointment. So I've had a lot of 5-star reads this year, but I've also had a lot of really brutal 1-star reads, and a few were particularly disappointing. The first was the first Rhaeria Chronicles book, The Crown Tower by Michael J. Sullivan. I really enjoyed the Rhaeria Revelations. It was one of the first adult epic fantasies I read when I came back into the fold after Brandon Sanderson's books. I liked the main characters that this follows as a prequel. I thought, oh great, we're going to have their origin story where Royce and Hadrian meet for the first time. I knew there was some interesting interpersonal dynamics that were going to be showing up, but unfortunately, the execution of this one left a lot to be desired. It felt very anticlimactic, the way their whole first meeting was depicted. Just very little meat to dig into here. This one I thought was gonna kick off a joyful romp through the prequel stories of Hadrian and Royce, but instead, it turned out I wished Michael J. Sullivan left these characters alone and left a little more mystery behind their meeting. And the other major disappointment was Book 3 of the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne trilogy by Brian Staveley, The Last Mortal Bond. This whole trilogy felt mediocre, disappointing, but at least in that third book I thought we're going to get resolution. I love climaxes, love action scenes that are very meaningful with high stakes that usually happen towards the end of series. I guess we kind of got some of that in this, but everything was disappointing to me about the character arcs, the plot arcs that either fizzled out or ended abruptly without much satisfying resolution. There was little to no catharsis at all with just about anything in here, and I came out of this trilogy wishing that I had DNF'd it after book 1, like many people did at the read-along at the Library of Alexandria. So this one, basically, I want to forget that I'd ever read. For my favorite new author, this one is extremely easy. There's no contest. It's Christopher Rocchio. We got his 4 Sun Eater novels that are currently out. All 4 books were huge hits with me. I was blown away that someone so young, right out of college, could produce Empire of Silence. That book, for a book 1, was utterly engaging. It felt like it was written by a wise old sage, and it was written by young Christopher Rocchio, and he just built on that book with an even better book 2, an even better book 3 and 4, which are some of my favorite books of all time. And so I can't wait to keep reading the series. Rocchio has a beautiful way with words, but not one where the language feels dense. I am utterly invested in the main character, Hadrian, whose POV we are told a story from. And I care so much about what happens to him and the characters around him and how he has gotten to this point where he is telling the story retrospectively. So I am absolutely enthralled, and I can't wait to eventually reread these books. There's amazing action, incredible, expansive, creative sci-fi world building that feels like the best of epic fantasy. So, no contest, Christopher Rocchio. For my biggest surprise, we got one that just came out of nowhere for me. I saw it on Dominish Books YouTube channel, and it's Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. It's a pretty slim sci-fi standalone novel that I absolutely devoured. It's kind of a little bit light in tone, but still dramatic with high personal stakes. And it's a clone story, which is not a spoiler. You get that right from the beginning. And I love clone stories. I've always enjoyed clone movies like Moon. And so I was predisposed to like this, I think. We have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. So this is surprising for me because I just bought it on a whim. I had listened to Baldree recording all of the Cradle audiobooks and really loved his narration. And I saw that he was releasing a book himself. It was getting a lot of buzz. I don't usually read much slice of life. I usually read epic fantasy or sci-fi. But I said, I'll do this as a little palate cleanser. And it really was a delightful read. I got invested in the characters, in the plot, and just for a couple days, I really enjoyed this book. And it's not just like positive vibes and nothing's going on and nothing bad's happening. Like, there's some stakes here, even though they call it a novel of high fantasy and low stakes. But there's some suspense, there's stakes. It was a story I really got immersed in, and I really look forward to more from Travis Baldree. All right, now for my newest fictional crush, we return to Legends and Lattes. Tandri here was definitely someone that I grew a little attached to. She is just someone who is very understanding of other people, ultra reliable, just a wonderful personality overall. My newest favorite character, another easy one, we got Hadrian Marlowe, if that is indeed Hadrian, behind the armor, from the Sun Eater series. He is a very reflective, introspective, loyal, morally upstanding, morally questioning kind of personality. Someone who really thinks through the ramifications of their actions, is going outside of the normal kind of cultural norms for humans in this series and how they approach alien creatures and races, and just also someone who's extremely clever and competent, inspires loyalty among his subordinates, just a very kind of fair and strategic leader. Just so many great positive traits there for Hadrian. Very sensitive also, very romantic, just everything about Hadrian I was predisposed to love, and he is just written so richly by Rocchio. Bravo. A book that made you cry. I don't think I have shed tears in 2022. It's pretty rare when a book actually draws that level of emotion out of me. And the last time I can clearly remember that happening was at the end of 2020 with Rhythm of War. So I think it's been over a year since some tears were drawn out of me. And I remember I was actually listening to the audiobook at the time of the climactic moment, and I was actually mowing the lawn, and I just had to stop for a few moments there and gather myself, because what was going on towards the end here was so emotionally involving, both in terms of some sad things, in terms of uplifting, transcendent, inspirational moments. The most beautiful book I have gotten this year is probably the omnibus Books of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. So I just have a soft spot for omnibus editions. This one, the cover, it's just a gorgeous painting, and it's an illustrated edition, so there are beautiful drawings all throughout this, and so, yeah, if you can get your hands on this omnibus, it is very worth it. All right, what do I need to read by the end of the year? I'm definitely a mood reader, so I don't plan out my TBRs too far ahead of time, but I have a great feeling that I'm going to love the 5 Warrior Angel series by Brian Lee Durfee, with book 3, last book, coming out later this year. I very much want to get to The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. And everyone on BookTube seems to have loved this series, The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. I very much want to get into these to see what all the fuss is about. So that's what I would like to read by the end of the year. So I'm not going to tag anyone, this being a new channel, and most people have already done this. So if you'd like to do it, go ahead, feel free, start a BookTube channel, take the plunge, and hopefully I'll see you around.